This is a short class to follow along to. I'll be doing minimal cueing, much different than my in-person classes. The block is optional, but if you have one, feel free to use it. Starting on your back in any comfortable position, knees can be bent with the feet on the floor, or you can have your legs extended out. Check in with your triple S, feeling the back of your skull, shoulder blades, and sacrum right above your tailbone on the mat. Bring your hands to your ribs to bring more awareness to your breath, and start using your 360 breath. As you inhale, feel the ribs expand, front, side, and back. As you exhale, let the breath all the way out. Keep the breath like that, breathing in, feeling the rib cage expand side to side, front and back, fully exhaling. Bring your hands to your thighs as we prepare to lift for bridge pose. Curl your tailbone up, press into your feet. Use your glutes to lift the hips into a low bridge pose, staying low enough that the shoulder blades stay on the mat. Draw your two pelvic points in. Reach your arms up toward the sky, make a fist, and start circling your wrists in both directions so you can start to mobilize and warm up the wrists. Think about knitting your front ribs in and holding strong in your glutes and your neutral pelvis. Arms will come back to your sides. As slowly as you can, lower down with the sacrum coming down last. Transition to a quadruped, coming onto hands and knees. Shoulders are right over your wrist creases. Start to cat-cow, stretching out the back. Let the pelvis tip forward and backwards, so the whole spine is flexing and extending. Move at any pace that feels good for your cat-cow. Moving on to some thoracic rotation. Come to a neutral position for your spine. Right hand will come behind the head. As you inhale, turn through the ribs just 1 or 2 inches to the right. As you exhale, lower that right elbow down toward the left. Do this a few more times without moving the low back or the pelvis. So we're just turning in the ribs, nothing else moves. Switching sides, I'll show it here with the block. So the block is here on my sacrum to make sure my pelvis and lumbar spine don't move. Left hand comes behind the head. Turn through the ribs 1 or 2 inches to the left as you inhale. As you exhale, left elbow will come down toward the right arm. Do this movement a few more times, focusing on thoracic rotation. So that's just the mid and upper back right around the rib cage. Moving on to a low lunge next. Step your right foot between your hands for a 90-90 type of low lunge. Left knee will stay down and the top of the left foot. Reach your arms up without popping the ribs. We're going to glide the shoulder blades up toward the ears and back down, working on scapula elevation, the ability to lift and lower the shoulder blades without moving anywhere else. Lower your arms down and start to roll the shoulders back 1 at a time, noticing any differences between right and left. Shoulder blade moves up, pulls back, and draws down. Lower the hands, step back to your quadruped. We'll work our scapula here as well, working on protraction and retraction. So as you press your palms into the ground, our shoulder blades will spread apart, which is protracting, and squeeze in toward each other, which is retracting. Try to only focus on the shoulder blades moving and not anything else in the pelvis or spine. So you could imagine trying to balance a block or something on your lower back here to make sure the movement is just happening in the shoulder blades. Moving to the other side, left foot steps through for that 90-90 low lunge. Lift and lower your shoulder blades without the ribs popping or anything in the pelvis moving. So again, we're elevating the scapula, drawing the shoulder blades up toward the ears and back down. Lower the hands down, alternate your shoulder rolls backwards. Rolling the left shoulder back, then the right shoulder back. Keep some firmness in that right glute, so the back leg. That will help get more of a stretch in the front of your right hip. Lower your hands down. Step your left foot back to quadruped. Coming back to that scapula mobility here, I'll show it with the block on my sacrum, right at my low back. So I'm going to press my palms into the ground, spread my shoulder blades apart, that's protraction, and then try to squeeze the shoulder blades in toward each other, that's retraction. So when we protract, we're creating more space by moving the shoulder blades away from the spine. As we retract, we're trying to squeeze the shoulder blades in toward the spine. Heading into downward dog, make sure your shoulders are over your wrist creases. Tuck your toes, lift your pelvis up for downward dog. We'll want to shorten the stance by walking the feet in a little bit and letting the knees bend. Hold your neutral pelvis. Imagine your two pelvic points drawing in toward each other. Let's try to move the shoulder blades here. Press into the ground, feel the shoulder blades shrug. So we're going to lift the shoulder blades up toward the ears and then back down. If you find this movement is a little bit too hard to isolate right now, you can just hold your downward dog. Lower the knees back down to your quadruped. Step your right foot through your hands for that low lunge. This time you can tuck the left toes under. Clasp your hands in front of you. Firm your left glute. Turn through the ribs just 1 or 2 inches to the right and back to center. Do this a few more times, isolating the movement in the thoracic spine. So hold still in that neutral pelvis. Notice any stretch in the front of that left hip. Lower the hands down, step it back to quadruped. Right foot will step out to the side. Parallel your right foot so the toes point forward. We're going to stretch our adductors, which is a group of inner thigh muscles, by rocking forward and back. Hold your neutral pelvis again. Think about those 2 pelvic points drawing in so that we don't arch the low back. Only sit the hips back as far as you need to get some kind of stretch or pull along the inside of the right leg. Step it back in and we'll switch sides. Left foot steps through for low lunge. If you'd like, tuck the right toes under. Clasp the hands in front. Firm your right glute as you do some small rotations in just the rib cage to the left and back to center. So we're only turning toward that front leg. Keep that feeling of your 2 pelvic points drawing in. Notice any stretch or sensation in the front of that right hip or right hip flexor. Hands will lower down as if we're heading back to quadruped, but step your left foot out to the side. Parallel that left foot so the toes point forward. Try to press into the outer edge of that left foot as we move the hips back and forward. So we're just doing a little bit of rocking forward and back to feel a stretch along the inside of that left leg. So again, we're stretching the adductors, a group of our inner thigh muscles, but hold that neutral pelvis. So make sure the low back doesn't arch. Heading back to your quadruped, let's take a child's pose of any kind. Feel free to bring the knees out as wide as you'd like. Take any option with your arms. You can bend the elbows, stacking the forearms on top of each other to rest the forehead on. If you've got a yoga block, you can bring your elbows to the yoga block for a shoulder and chest stretch. Find yourself wherever it feels comfortable and bring your attention back to your breath. Feel that 360 inhale, front, side, and back, letting the breath all the way out as you exhale. From your child's pose, come onto your back. We'll pause there with the feet on the mat, knees bent, checking again with that triple S, feeling the back of the skull on the mat, the shoulder blades, and the sacrum. Heading into figure 4, pick up your left foot, dorsiflex the foot, pull the toes back toward the shin as you cross that left ankle over the right knee or thigh. You can take any option that feels good here. I'm showing it with a goalpost arm to stretch the front of the chest and shoulder, but feel free to take any option. Maybe try an active stretch here without interlacing your hands behind the right thigh. You can add a little bit of rocking side to side if that feels good, and really just focus on the stretch in that left hip. Release it down and switch sides. Pick up your right foot. Flex the foot. Pull the toes toward the shin as you cross the right ankle over the left knee or thigh. Take any option that feels good while you focus on the stretch in that outer right hip. Again, feel free to add some gentle rocking side to side if that feels good. Bringing your awareness back to that big 360 inhale, fully exhaling. Release it down. If you'd like, you can hug both knees in, maybe take a few rocks side to side or up and down, or take a happy baby. Whenever you feel ready, we'll end in Shavasana, coming to any comfortable position on your back. You are welcome to keep the feet on the mat with the knees bent. Wherever you end up, let your arms and legs relax. Let your eyes close. Soften your forehead. Soften your jaw. Allow yourself some quiet and stillness in the mind and body as long as you'd like.